Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Sustainable Jersey's webinar, New Resources for Sustainable Jersey Arts and Creative Culture Actions. I'm Samantha McGraw, Program Manager for Sustainable Jersey, and I'm happy to welcome you here today. So our presenters today are Leo Vazquez, Creative Placemaking Communities, Arts and Culture Actions Team Leader, Lauren Otis, Executive Director, Artworks, and Anne-Marie Miller, Director of Advocacy and Public Policy, ArtPride New Jersey. So to start off our webinar, I'll turn it over to Leo.
Thank you, Samantha, and welcome everybody. It's glad to be here with you talking about the arts and creative culture actions for Sustainable Jersey. I'm going to just give you a brief overview of the 5 actions. As you see, I'm the chair of the Arts and Creative Culture Task Force, and our team wrote the all these actions, and we took into account the interest and the challenges that municipal officials face in working on arts and cultural activities. So these actions are designed really to be in sort of 5 steps, from the easiest to the most challenging. So I'm going to go through each one of them, and then we'll have time later to take questions on them. So Samantha, if you can go to the next one. To the first one, the easiest one is to establish a creative team. And this is important because creative placemaking is about being strategic about how you engage arts and culture to address social, economic, environmental, health issues. And no one person, no one organization, no a single industry can do it by themselves. And so the key to making this work and to having the kind of impacts that you want arts and culture to have in your community is to develop a team. So that is 10 points for establishing a creative team. Bring together different people, some people from the arts, some people from government, from education. We realize for small communities this is a challenge, but usually, in every community, there's always somebody who's kind of across silos. There might be a doctor and an artist. They might be working in the government and doing something related to history. So even in the smallest communities, you can find enough people to establish the creative team. So the next one, if you could, Samantha, if you can move to the next, is to do a creative assets inventory. Creative placemaking is a form of planning. It's about deciding where you want to go, and to know where you want to go and how you can get there, you have to know where you are now. And the creative assets inventory does that. It's a process by which you can identify creative and cultural assets in your site, in your town. Not just the museums and the galleries, but also the music shops, the dance schools, the cultural spaces that all help to enhance the quality of life in a community. And this also is 10 points. Samantha, if you can go to the next one then. Okay, municipal commitments to support arts and creative culture. Government can be an incredible catalyst for any kind of activity, and particularly in the arts. Although, arts tends to be a private sector activity, a nonprofit activity, certainly a big part of whether your community can be artful is do people feel that do creative sector professionals, do artists, designers, and makers feel that they're welcome, that they're valued in your community? Municipal commitments is a way to say, yes, we do value the arts and creative culture. So here you get points for doing things like policies, for regulations, for creating a district, for in the case, putting it into your master plan, something that's specifically about speaks to arts. Samantha, if you could go to the next one. Yes, so utilizing your creative assets, and Lauren is going to talk about that after I speak, is really about exploring projects, doing activities with arts organizations, with cultural organizations in your city. Now, one thing to be clear about is that you only get points for what you as what your municipality does with the arts. It's not about things that just happen in your community. So when you're putting together your application, you want to be very clear about what role did the municipality play in making this activity happen. And I forgot to mention that the creative placemaking plan is 10 points, and that commitments, you can have 5 to 25 points, so it's variable scales. I'm sorry, I'll get to the creative placemaking plan next. And then the utilizing your commitments, your assets is 10 to 30 points. So then the fifth one is creative placemaking plan. Thank you. Now, this is the most challenging one, to establish a really kind of a coherent set of strategies related to arts and culture, but it is worth it. We know that arts can have incredible benefits to communities, increasing property values and helping young people do better in schools. It's associated with healthier aging, both mental health and physical health. It can be a powerful vehicle for helping communities become more inclusive and dealing with tensions within their communities. But these things can happen, but like anything else, the more strategic you are, the more intentional, the more systemic your way of thinking about it is, the more likely you're going to see the impacts that you want, and the more likely it's going to happen faster and more efficiently. And that's what your plan can do. So this is the most challenging action, but I think it's also something that's worth doing. And that one is 10 points. So that's a brief overview of the actions, and I am now going to turn it back to Samantha. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you, Leo. All right, I'm just going to turn it over to Lauren now. So just hold on while we make that transition.
Yeah, thank you, Leo. Thank you, Samantha. Okay, so I am going to talk about a project that Artworks in the city of Trenton. Can people, Samantha, just to be clear, sure everyone can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your
Okay,
slides. Yep.
great. Welcome everyone, and thanks for logging in and listening to us. Thank you, Leo, and thank you, Samantha. I'm going to talk about Artworks' participation with the City of Trenton in a project that in 2019 we received Sustainable Jersey funding for. It's for a project to use art to improve a underpass, which you'll see from some of the images I'm going to show you, was very dreary. Unfortunately, still is. This project is ongoing, and we can talk about some of the reasons why it's still ongoing and hasn't been completed, or in fact even started, the actual art installation, that is. After the presentation, certainly COVID had a huge impact on our timing, and a few other factors which I can go into. But and just other than that, the only intro I'll say as well is going off of what Leo said, we applied in 2019 for this as an arts and creative culture action, and we definitely applied for it as a utilizing creative assets application. But we also used the project, we applied for it as an innovative project action, an innovative community project. And you'll see that it actually we could have applied for other actions. It could have been a building healthier communities action as well. So with that, I'll dive into the actual presentation. This was, as I said, to use art to improve an underpass that was navigable but not pleasant, is not pleasant. And why would we pick this underpass? Well, it happens to be a critical passage point and gateway to the city of Trenton from the Trenton Transit Center. And on my screen, you'll see the Trenton Transit Center is there on the right in red. This is in the red outline, the red rectangle. That's basically where our project will be installed. And you can see that people who leave the transit center, they have very few options to get downtown on foot. The main option is to walk down Barlow Street onto Market Street, where the city basically opens up to them. Up here where my arrow is City Hall. These are state office buildings. This is the state motor vehicle services building, which plenty of people go to daily. This is Artworks right there. This is the Mill Hill residential community. To the left, further beyond, is the Capitol and county and other state offices. So you can see this is a huge entryway into the city. What you have to do is go under on Market Street under an overpass. And the conditions of that overpass are, it's an overpass basically. And you have a sidewalk, but it's not exactly, you can see the sidewalk. This is looking towards the Trenton Transit Center from downtown, from the Mill Hill neighborhood. It's walkable certainly, but is it a pleasant walk? Not really. And I use this slide to illustrate how even in a very bright day condition, the shadows of this underpass basically are very deep. It's very dark, even in bright sunlight. And once you get in it, it's also dirty. It's fairly unpleasant, even though obviously you can traverse it. This is looking towards the transit center. This is looking towards Mill Hill. It's also very noisy, which I'm thankfully not going to illustrate to you, but there's a lot of truck traffic on Market Street at this point, and it can be extremely noisy. So if it's an unpleasant space in daytime, whoop, I skipped by, it's definitely unpleasant in nighttime. This is one night view. This is looking when you're in the underpass. It's actually something that is so unpleasant. People are fearful of walking this route between the transit center and say their home in Mill Hill or their office building. If they can do it any other way, they will. And so that is a problem. That's why we applied for funding to improve this. And it's a space that really not many people thought of since that overpass was created. We had discussions at Artworks, and then we had discussions with the city of Trenton, with the administration there, who were very enthusiastic about using art to improve this very unwelcoming but major gateway walkway into the city. So I want to emphasize, as you can see here, that it isn't just using art to improve, to kind of make a space look nice, but it actually has some remarkable other improvements to public safety, encouraging healthy behaviors. If you can get more people to actually choose to walk rather than get in a taxi or an Uber or be picked up, and just overall improve the quality of people's existence. I'm clicking fast. So how do you do that with art? Well, murals are an obvious one on that huge concrete wall. Not just murals, but we actually applied for mosaic murals because we feel that a mosaic mural, the kind of undulating three-dimensional quality of a mosaic mural, and then its ability to kind of reflect light and have some kind of ambient reflective lighting of its own just makes it an obvious choice. This is an example of a mural in Chicago, a mosaic mural. This is another view of it. And we thought that a mosaic mural would be ideal for such a space as we had at that underpass in Trenton. So on top of murals, what else? Lighting. Lighting is, you saw from that nighttime slide I showed you, lighting is key. And when you have a dark space, you don't feel very happy walking through it. You may actually feel unsafe. Quite often you do feel unsafe. And it's kind of, this is as you can see, an Amtrak overpass. I think it's in Birmingham, Alabama, if I recall. And you can see how just simple lighting can make what might be a very dreary underpass actually inviting. So that was the prospect. This is, I think, in Arizona, in Phoenix, in Tucson, I believe, another underpass. And you can see the possibilities are almost infinite for what artists can do to creatively improve a space. And I will say at this point that almost all municipalities do have these kind of forgotten, often dead spaces, but they are used by pedestrians, they're used by people, by bicyclists and the like. And art is one of the best ways to make them far more inviting. This is something called the Spring Garden Connector in Philadelphia. It ties an area of Northern Liberties to the waterfront area. And you can see this is a very large scale sculptural lighting project. But, and this is a huge underpass that would be hugely unpleasant, but with the art and the lighting, it's very, very, very attractive. So the last slides I have are another project in Philadelphia, I believe in South Philadelphia, just to illustrate how you can use a mural with lighting as well. You can basically combine the two, and that's also a possibility for the underpass at Market Street in Trenton. So basically, the plan is to use art to turn this, what I would consider an urban liability, into an asset and make it a net benefit to our community here, to both the health and the well-being of residents and visitors alike. And our city agrees with that. We just, for a few reasons, haven't been able to embark on that project yet. And so with that, I will close off and hand my screen back.
Thank you, Lauren. Certainly
And
a lot of
obviously,
inspirational ideas there for sure.
Sure, and I'll take questions and the discussion after Anne-Marie.
So thank you. Thanks, Lauren, for taking the time to explain that project. And it's really inspiring and complicated, but really, I think inspiring more than complicated to get other people to think about creative ways to utilize the arts to tackle problems and in municipalities. So I want to thank Lauren and Leo for their presentations. My name is Anne-Marie Miller. I'm Director of Public Policy at ArtPride, New Jersey. ArtPride is our state arts advocacy organization, but I'd like to say that my elevator speech is promotion and public value. Besides promoting arts activities around the state through our Discover Jersey Arts program, We work really hard to ensure that people understand how the arts are connected to all aspects of our lives, to education, community, economic development, and healthcare, among other sectors. So you've heard from Leo about the existing arts and culture actions, and from Lauren, who explained how Trenton moved forward to utilize creative assets and collaborate on a project that was funded through Sustainable Jersey's PSEG grant program, which deadline is coming up in February 11th, I believe, for that program, where you can use these arts and culture actions, or you can use the grants to help you obtain some of these arts and culture actions, and grants are available at $20,000, $10,000, and $2,000. My goal today is to help you think about how to utilize creative assets and new resources that can also help you build the partnerships that are needed to be successful in completing those actions and applying for one of those Sustainable Jersey grant programs. The grants, besides Lauren's that he described, that have been funded, include Frenchtown Borough's completed the creative asset mapping action that Leo described with the grant, and other projects also include some creative placemaking grants and implementing pedestrian improvements creatively. At ArtPride, we work with municipal leaders frequently. We actually have a booth right next to Sustainable Jersey at the New Jersey League of Municipalities conference that just ended last month, late last month. And that's when we actually have a lot of one-to-one contact with municipal leaders, everyone from mayors to appointed officials in all different areas, from parks and recreation to arts commissions to public works, etc. And they ask us, you know, how can we do some of these things that actually are some of the creative actions, arts and culture creative actions that Leo described. So we often refer those leaders to the Sustainable Jersey Arts and Creative Culture Actions. We encourage you to consider these actions, think outside the box, and when applying for innovative projects, think about how your cultural assets and your partners can help you achieve green team and creative team goals. A few new resources include a brand new New Jersey Mayor's Committee on Arts and Culture that you see on the screen. ArtPride is launching that in partnership with the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. And while it's not yet an established program like the Mayor's Wellness Program, please be aware of this new way for mayors to share information on funding and how municipalities all over the state are using the arts to increase community and economic development. Our goal with the Mayor's Committee is basically to help them share information. Often when we're at the League of Municipalities conference and we have a panel discussion, that might be the only time we get a good showing of mayors together to be able to share. So we're looking at ways for them to be able to share information, understand what ordinances are available to help them complete some of those actions. Sustainable Jersey's new Gold Star standard in health has several avenues that may incorporate arts and culture. For example, the Building Healthier Communities action, which can earn up to 25 points, can involve increasing community safety, one of the social and economic factors in building a healthier community. Just what Lauren was talking about is making folks feel safer in walking and biking is all part of public health. Mural making, crosswalk, asphalt painting can each lend themselves to making your community safer. Other arts programs like community dance and movement classes may also be an avenue to complete this action, as well as utilizing the arts as creative ways to communicate healthy behaviors within a municipality. The next slide, please. So a really great resource for utilizing the arts in public health can be found at the University of Florida's Healthy Communities website. And the link is there, and it'll be available also in the sharing of this webinar afterwards. The framework that they offer demonstrates how the arts can influence evidence-based outcomes, which is really, really important in terms of art, because people are always saying, well, okay, the arts, but really, what does that mean in terms of outcomes? The outcomes range from creating safe, inclusive, and engaging environments to providing direct health benefits like stress relief and reducing loneliness and isolation. I encourage you to visit the link on the framework and to also find, which will also help you find ways to develop the collaborations that are key to success. They offer, if you explore this website, you'll find many case studies and examples that will walk you through some of this framework, which may look complicated on the screen, but is not. It's just it's very useful to how you can take arts and culture on one side and come through with evidence-based outcomes and public health on the other side. Next slide, please. So another really good new resource that can help you achieve some of these actions is the Municipal Artist Partnership. This website can walk you through simple steps to start and sustain partnerships between artists and municipalities to engage residents and also improve communities. They offer a wide range of resources, templates, worksheets, videos, and assessment tools, which are also really helpful, improving how this all works. And they can help you along the way, as well as understanding how to find common ground and build successful collaborations. I think that's it. So please feel free to contact me, Leo, or Lauren if we can offer more information or help you work through the arts and creative culture actions. And I think I'll turn it back to and maybe if there are any questions for all of us. I don't know,
Yeah,
Sam.
thanks. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Before we move into the Q&A period, I just have a few Sustainable Jersey technical assistance and grant funding opportunities, one that Anne-Marie already alluded to. And then we also have some upcoming webinars and an update on the 2020 certification cycle that I'll go over. So while I'm running through this, please think of your questions and enter them in the questions box, and we will address them at the end. Thank you for taking your time today to listen to our webinar. We really appreciate your attendance. So as Anne-Marie alluded to, the 2022 Sustainable Jersey Grant Cycle funded by the PSEG Foundation is now open. It's a great opportunity to submit a grant application for a project that's been on your wish list, and also earns points for an action that would contribute toward your Sustainable Jersey certification or support your green team initiatives. As Anne-Marie mentioned, there's $20,000, $10,000, and $2,000 grants that are available. So maybe there are some arts initiatives that you would like to submit a grant application for. And those applications are due February 11th. We held a webinar yesterday with more details on the cycle, which you can find on our website. And any questions can be directed to our grants program coordinator, Caitlin Vollmer. The Complete Streets Technical Assistance Program is also seeking applications from municipalities within the 13 counties that comprise the NJTPA region to receive free technical assistance for a project related to advancing complete streets in their communities. The projects will be 3 to 6 months in duration and are anticipated to take place between April 2022 and February 2023. We held an informational webinar last week, and we'll also be holding an application process webinar tomorrow. And then the applications for that technical assistance opportunity are also due by February 11th. And you can find more information on the grants page of our website as well. There's also going to be energy-related webinars in January, focusing on creating a community energy plan and funding for transitioning fleets to EVs. And then lastly, the 2022 certification application deadline is May 22nd. So if you are planning to apply for certification in 2022, please keep that in mind. We certainly hope that you'll be including arts actions in those submissions. And with that, yes, we'll move on to the Q&A portion. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at our info@sustainablejersey.com line. And as I said, the webinar presentation and recording will also be posted on our website on the resources page within the next few days. So let me see if we have any questions so far. Okay, we do have one question, and you know, any of you that would like to chime in is fine. So the question is, do you need approval, or who do you need approval from, if you do need approval, to paint under the underpass?
Well, I can take that to start at least, seeing as we have an actual project. That's a great question, because jurisdiction, if you're going to do a public art project, whether it's Sustainable Jersey funded or otherwise, you do have to work with the people who have ownership and or jurisdiction over property or the like, and basically we have that underpass, the infrastructure, the road, like a lot of urban centers, Trenton has multiple jurisdictions. It's actually the State Department of Transportation actually owns the infrastructure, i.e. the abutments, the roadway of the overpass. The sidewalk is a city jurisdiction, and the and Market Street itself, I believe, is a county road, if I'm not mistaken. So to actually paint that mural, even though the city's on board, you need to have approval of the state, and more specifically, approval of the Department of Transportation. A significant hurdle we encountered was that not only had the New Jersey DOT not done anything like this before, i.e. allowed a mural to be put up on their infrastructure, they didn't even have, they had no experience and no policy in place. So that's been part of why things have extended out time-wise, is we've been actually attempting to work with the NJDOT on developing a policy. And I'm happy to say they have a policy now for allowing pilot projects, of which this is one. But yeah, make sure you know what the jurisdiction is and bring them into the conversation as early as you possibly can. There can be, a railway, old railway, jurisdiction over some old railway tracks. So if you're doing something like that, you do have to occasionally research it. But if you partner with your municipality, which you will, they are the best authority on finding out who owns what within their borders.
Great. As a follow-up question, did you say that NJDOT has a pilot program for the murals at underpasses?
They actually have a pilot program for public art on their infrastructure. I think the way they look at that is pretty exclusively murals, but it's not to say that you couldn't get in touch with them and propose something else. For instance, the larger vision of the art walk we have would be to have large public sculpture installed on grassy embankments that lead up to those abutments and the like. As I noted, we would like to include creative lighting installations. Right now, the DOT has said they only want to entertain mural proposals. And so we're hopefully going to continue the conversation with them on how critical lighting is and how important it is, not just to illuminate a mural, but to how you can have a creative art light installation that makes people happier and safer as they traverse that space.
Great. Another question is, can anyone recommend resources to explore asphalt painting?
So I know the Bloomberg Philanthropies recently awarded grants for asphalt painting, and I believe Trenton got a grant as well as New Brunswick. Lauren, I don't know if you wanted to touch base on that.
Sure. Actually, again, I had to hold myself back from showing the results of the asphalt project we did. We, in fact, did receive Bloomberg funding for their first round, again, like 3 years ago it was, and again, postponed implementation due to COVID. But we installed a piece of asphalt art at the it was basically the crosswalks at the intersection in front of the Trenton Transit Center. And Bloomberg is obviously the most visible funder of that. You're right, Anne Marie, it is New Brunswick, and I think Newark is the other one who received funding in New Jersey for the second Bloomberg round. The truth is, you could probably propose an asphalt art project for a sustainable Jersey project. You could certainly, there are other funders. It's just Bloomberg has certainly gone out there and specifically had requested, applications for those kind of projects. But there's definitely many funding opportunities. I would say that any funder that will fund a mural on the side of a wall will fund a mural on pavement or a sidewalk.
Yeah, in our town. Okay, go ahead, Leo.
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry. No, please, Anne Marie. Why don't you go and then I'll follow you.
Okay, so in our town, our local arts commission has been raising money over time for public art, and is actually right now in the middle of a proposal to do some asphalt art at a school crossing. And it is a county road, so we've already went through the county to get permission, and they gave us permission. We're now dealing with our borough engineer to make sure that we are in compliance with the standards that are needed to do the kind of project that we want to do. So, we actually might apply for one of the Sustainable Jersey grants to help us do that. So,
and I'll just add that Bloomberg Philanthropies does have an asphalt art guide on their website. So it's asphaltart.bloomberg.org. Generally, if you're going to do this, I would recommend. By the way, just so you know, my own background, I'm not an artist. I'm an urban planner who's gotten into creative placemaking. You'd want to look at crosswalks or intersections that probably have that more downtown, slower, design made for pedestrians, and there's a lot of great opportunities there. Of course, if you're looking at a county road or a state road, then as Lauren had said earlier, you're going to be looking at having a lot more meetings, taking more time to make things happen. I will also say, because there was a question on the overpass art, NJ Transit does have a program for art on its infrastructure, and they do have a person. First name is Christine. I forget the last name. But if you're doing anything, if you're planning to do anything connected to an NJ Transit facility, you definitely want to reach out to them early on.
It's Christine Blanco.
Christine Blanco.
And she's very helpful, yes.
Great. So a follow-up question, regarding the asphalt murals. So is there anything, important to know in terms of maintenance of those murals?
Yes, I was going to add for asphalt art, it wears at a different and far faster rate than a mural. A mural on a wall, depending on where it's sited, can last almost indefinitely, depending on the paint and whether it's sealed and all that. That's not the case for asphalt art. And as Leo was mentioning, where you site it is critical, because depending on the type of traffic, If it's slow downtown traffic, then it'll last longer. If it's lots of heavy trucks and buses and it's faster, then it won't last very long at all. And to be honest about it, even Bloomberg Philanthropies, I think, didn't quite grasp this aspect of funding and creating these projects is how ephemeral they can actually be. That's something that they are asking us to do, and other people who receive funding to do, is see how those wear and tear. And I will say the art is still there. It looks wonderful. But yeah, it doesn't look like it did the day after it was installed, that's for sure.
Which also speaks to when you're building your connections and people involved, make sure you engage the public works people as well, because they're going to be the ones who are going to be involved in maintaining the facility, the artwork.
Yes, definitely sounds like there are a lot of things to consider when pursuing one of these projects. So another question we received is, were the underpass murals painted directly on the concrete or mounted on wooden panels?
So you could do both. Wooden panels would probably, that's a very moist environment. And wooden panels would probably not be a good choice. You would probably want, if you were going to mount those panels, you would probably use some kind of composite. Artworks has had actually a lot of success using kind of a composite plastic panel that you can apply paint to. We actually have had a public art project where we installed murals like that were affixed to the main library of the Trenton Public Library System, and they look actually wonderful now, and they're by now I'd say 4 years old or something like that. So you can put a mural up right on the concrete, absolutely. It's something you'll want to speak to the entity with jurisdiction. I know that the DOT has all this language. They're going to want to have the ability to remove that at a certain time frame. And so it's not to say that they would ask Artworks or anyone to remove a mural, but they want them to, in theory, be removable, which if it's painted on the concrete, you can sandblast it or something like that. But different ways of putting something on can be more or less permanent.
Thanks. And then we did receive just a follow-up comment in the questions box from Chatham Borough, who said their second New Jersey Transit underpass mural looks like it was required to be painted on plywood and physically affixed to panels to the underpass. So I guess that's another potential option depending on your particular situation.
Yeah, if I could just add, different agencies are going to have different. I think Orange had the same issue when the mural there in the Valley Arts District. I believe in Maplewood, they have art in the underpass, and I think that's painted on directly. So I don't know what happened there. Again, reaching out to Christine Blanco. The other thing to, just following up on what Lauren said, removing artwork, please be aware that that artists do have certain intellectual property rights when it comes to public art. So it's not just, hey, if you don't like the mural, you can just paint it over and just start over. So you again, in this case, you'd probably also want to speak with your municipal attorney just about the intellectual property rights and contracting out with any artist that you work with on for any public property.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Leo. I'll just follow up on it by saying, please reach out to your local arts organization or ArtPride New Jersey or the like, you know, I'd be happy to discuss, you know, some of those aspects to it. But that's a huge point is, you know, the ownership of the art, its uses, and of course that's addressed contractually. You will want, and it's, I think, a great way to get your sustainable jersey action to be, you know, a good one. You absolutely want community outreach. You want to have before you install a piece of public art. I didn't mention that our project, that we've already had multiple public you know, events and ways of getting the word out about what we're proposing. But you definitely want to get the community involved and hopefully have their buy-in for the, you know, the concept of your mural or whatever it is, and then the piece of art. Having that can be community cleanups. It can certainly be participation in the selection process, hearing what artists have to say about what they'd like to do, and then installation, you know, a community paint day, things like that. Those are great aspects of building community through public art installations.
Great. Another question we got is, are there any ideas on how much the lighting projects might cost and who is responsible for the energy resources?
So lighting, I've actually given other presentations on this. People have installed underpass lighting installations that were supposed to be temporary. There was one up in Boston that cost, I think all told, $2,000, something like that. And they can go up. That one in Philadelphia I showed you, that's a multi-million-dollar project, basically. So the sky's the limit. The one in Boston was very endearing. They used Christmas lights, and they basically bought out all the local stores, like, I forget whether it was after the holidays or the like. It then was so well loved in the community that they got further funding, real funding, to create it permanently with more than just Christmas lights. But yeah, you can, lighting, if you're going to use someone who knows what they're doing, and a lighting installation, especially out in public, you have to really be aware of longevity, vandalism, electric, you know, shortages and the like. And actually, the DOT supposedly at this point is thinking in New Jersey that they, if they say yes to lighting, that we would supply the power. So then you have to figure out how you're going to supply the power. And that's something, again, we'll work out with the city of Trenton.
You know, I just want to add the idea that the sky's the limit is really a good way to look at it. And the fact that you can do a project that's really simple and that doesn't cost a lot of money. I mean, we did a mural in our town that everyone loves because there was community involvement and our town was highly involved for $4,000. And you can, you know, and that might seem like a lot even by itself, but at the same time, there's a wide range of cost available depending upon what you want to do. And if you're intimidated by any of this, the idea is to start something simple, and then you can always, you know, grow from that as well.
One of the things that I really love about working with artists is that you don't have to come up with the ideas. You come up with the goals. You know, the great thing about working with artists is they'll come up with 10 million ideas. The hard part about working with artists is they'll come up with 10 million ideas. So, but no, you could definitely, you know, as Anne-Marie, you could said, and you could definitely do a lot of things for very, very little money. And some of them, you know, and some things are going to be permanent, are going to cost more, but there's plenty of things you could do that are temporary. For those of you who are not familiar with temporary projects, there's a whole field known as tactical urbanism, which is all about doing temporary projects And I encourage you to Google it. There's some really great guides, some really great examples of really beautiful artwork that you can do, really creative stuff for very little money.
I do feel the need to add one thing as an organization that advocates on behalf of artists, and by advocating meaning we want them to be paid for what they do appropriately. And I can't tell you how many times, not quite on a weekly basis, but maybe close to a monthly basis, I get people who are interested in a mural on the side of their building, their nonprofits building, their businesses building, their malls, boarded up storefront, whatever. And they're like, we can pay for paint, but the artist will have a great project to show their skills. And that's the bottom end. That has happened, actually. We have very unrealistic views sometimes, and it is an education aspect. I think these type of programs like Sustainable Jersey funding for these kind of projects, what Leo does, what Anne Marie does, it's really important because, and you should talk to your municipality about the value of art, because once people do see the value of art, and specifically public art in their community, they then see the value of paying an artist real money to do a project. Mural Arts Philadelphia is very well known. Their mural projects average around $30,000. And it's not to say that you can't do a $5,000 mural, but just be aware that there are artists who are no matter what you say, going to be uninterested in that project because it is way below their pay grade. And to some degree with artists, you get what you pay for. If you want a really beautiful mural, you're going to have someone design and create it who knows what they're doing, and that costs money.
Absolutely. I mean, in our town, the artist negotiated the price with us, or set the price with us. But I know in mural arts, there's a design fee, there's an installation fee, and it's very specific as to what process, how much the process the artist is involved in with regard to installation, ordering supplies, all of that is all within the contract.
All right.
Oh,
We
and
could take a little bit of a pivot and, oh, I'm sorry, Leo.
yeah, and so this is why it's so important to establish your creative team, because you will learn these things when you bring the artists, when you bring the government people together, and everybody feels that they have an equal voice at the table. You will learn very quickly what is realistic, what's going to take, and what's going to be a heavy lift, both from the government side and from the art side.
Right, so now we're going to take a little bit of a pivot. We have a question related to an inventory. So the question is, we are a small community, residents travel outside the community for concerts, etc. Kids are sent outside the community for art and dance classes. How far can we go with an inventory of assets?
Do you want to take that, or?
Go ahead, Leo.
Well, I'm not sure the context when you say how far you can go with an inventory of assets. I guess I'll try to answer it as best I can. In every community, there are far more cultural assets than most people are aware of. And things, not just the concerts, the big galleries, but the smaller things as well. Knowing where things are, and I'm going to speak to you now as a planner. When you have those assets there and you know where they are, that gives you something to build on. So you take a look at Frenchtown, a small town. Frenchtown is a tiny little town with a tiny little downtown, and they've really become they've really become a destination along the Delaware River. They have a great festival every year, the Bastille Day. So you don't have to be a Newark or a Jersey City or New Brunswick to have things going on in your town and have people stay and spend money in your town, but you do have to know what you have and what you can build on to make it happen.
Sure, and the River Arts Alliance or River Arts Council, I think in Hunterdon County, has taken their assets, you know, in inventory to actually combining it with some of the local businesses to produce brochures that help, you know, not only reflect where the galleries are and the cultural assets, but also the business assets as well. So the Chamber of Commerce, you know, ends up being involved at the same time.
And I just want to add another thing because I forgot, is that the process, you know, thing is, it's mapping, it's data, and that can sound boring, but actually this is actually a really fun project to do because people walk around, people say, and you know, I've been doing this for years, these cultural assets inventory, and I can tell you, I've worked with people who've lived in a community for 20 years or so, and they'll say, oh, I never noticed that school that was there. I never noticed that. So, and then that really starts to get the juices flowing, and people go, oh, wow, we really got a lot more than we thought we did. And so there's some really exciting things that can happen here.
Robert, let me know if that answers your question. If not, I can unmute you and you can provide some clarifying information. Robert also asked, how do you document resident participation in the arts?
Okay, there's all different kinds of ways. Volunteer participation, you know, actually, where does it come from? It's very easy to find some of that out. We did a local project recently that started off as just the Arts Commission in my town, and then all of a sudden it was greater, the juniorettes were involved, the Girl Scouts were involved, the Education Association was involved, and I think there was a local teen center. And then all of a sudden you have, those are ways to document participation because they all have their lists. They all know who's been part of whatever it is that you're doing, and they all maintain their own, you know, documentation of who's been part of that project. So collectively, it's easier that way.
All right, and then another question is, where is there a source of municipal documentation supporting the arts? If there's maybe something that's been passed by ordinance, anything along those lines.
So before Leo chimes, I can hear Leo's mind going. That's what the Mayor's Committee is going to be doing. Our Mayor's Committee on Arts and Culture, we've been, you know, with Leo's help, with other arts organizations' help, with municipal towns that are working in the arts all over the place. We've been compiling lists of ordinances, those that deal, and they change depending upon the towns. So you have cultural district ordinances, you have arts, making an arts commission or ordinance, you have mural, I think I just said mural ordinances, there's parklet ordinances, there are, that, you know, there are, I mean, ordinances that even govern body art and tattoo, you know, I mean, so there's a, we're compiling that list and hoping to be able to have that on our website at ArtPride.
Yeah. And I'll just add that in the actions themselves, at the last part, there's some examples. And this, I guess the follow-up question for you, Samantha, is can people who are implying, can they find out about who has, you know, the municipalities that have received points for certain actions, and then that way they can ask them for, you know, for examples of their ordinances?
Many of you probably are familiar with our participating municipalities and approved actions map. So I will just quickly just do a quick little demonstration of how to use that. You all can see my Sustainable Jersey website page. Okay, great. So if you just click on View Map, What you can do is you can actually filter the map to show by certified action. So if you go into the arts and creative culture suite of actions, let's say I wanted to see who's been approved for establish a creative team, could click on that. I can click filter. Then you just have to scroll back up to the top and then you'll see either a map distribution or you can click on list view. And then you can click on the municipality and then you can click on their certification report. And then you can go to that action in their certification report, and you can view the documentation that was submitted for those for that action. And another, good feature about the participants map is you can, once you have that list view, you can filter it, so that all the counties are grouped together, the towns and the counties are grouped together, so you can kind of see regionally around you who's been approved for those actions. And then if you click in that little bubble and view the municipal profile, you'll see the primary contact that you can call if you have questions about what they did for that particular action. So that was a great opportunity, Leo, to demonstrate the map. I'm going to just unmute Robert really quickly to ask his question because I think he has some other clarifying information and I'm not sure that I'll be able to relay that effectively. So Robert, I unmuted you. If you want to unmute yourself to just provide some clarifying information around your question. It looks like you're self-muted. Well, I can also always follow up with you as well and get some more information. So I'll follow up with Robert offline. We do have a few more questions. So if you're able to, for those of you that are able to hang on, that'd be great. Thank you all to our presenters today too. If you can just hang on a little bit as well. So let me just find where. So kind of keeping in with this theme, you mentioned dance schools and music stores. Can tattoo parlors be considered part of your assets?
Sure. Go ahead, Leo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember exactly. I don't remember exactly, but we did when we wrote the asset inventory. It was the idea that anything that is a creative sector industry, so something that is really kind of where the market value is primarily because of its artfulness, or if it's a performance. So yeah, I mean, we were thinking tattoo parlors. Fine dining restaurants, but I want to, since I don't have the action right in front of me, open in front of me, I don't know if it specifically says that. But Anne Marie, I think you might have some better information on that.
Well, we always include tattoo artists and and studios as part of the creative industry. So I would say yes.
Yeah, just be cognizant that tattoo parlors are staffed by tattoo artists who are artists. A lot of tattoo artists create visual art outside of the medium of people's skin. Artworks has held exhibits of tattoo art. So yeah, those artists themselves are a creative asset. I think the gentleman who was muted, his question, I think that's one of the things, and Leo was making this point, Anne Marie too, you can be extremely creative in mapping your creative assets. And what you may not realize is literally artists living in your midst who can form an artist community, and until you map them, you don't necessarily know that they're there. And in terms of, I think there was a question about crossing the border of your municipality. I honestly don't know how, more of a regional arts solution, whether Sustainable Jersey allows that. But using Leo's example of Frenchtown, a lot of those towns along the Delaware River do things jointly as river towns. And I think that you can map yourself or apply for funding or create arts actions or just arts events and the like regionally. It doesn't have to be within the borders of your municipality.
Yeah, I know Hunterdon County does the, I think they call it THAT, that it's, the Hunterdon County Art Tour, so that you're going through the entire county, stopping at various places. It does go beyond the municipality focus of Sustainable Jersey, but yes, this stuff happens all the time.
Yeah, I think as a little bit of a follow-up in terms of, documenting resident participation in the arts, kind of like what are we like looking to see in the documentation, like attendance at events or anything like that?
So I think I can address that a little bit. I mean, we're getting ready for a statewide arts and economic prosperity study. We did one 5 years ago. It'll happen again next year. And because ArtPride is our state partner, we have a variety of local partners as well. And right now, besides Jersey City, I think the rest are counties. There's Bergen County, Hudson County, Hunterdon County, Somerset County, Middlesex County, Cumberland County, Camden County, Monmouth County. They're all involved. And basically what we're doing is in that study, the arts organizations that exist in those areas will tell us a little bit about their expenses and their income and their attendance for arts organizations, again, that live within those territories, and in most cases this time counties. And then what we do is we are trying to push this as far away from COVID as humanly possible. Into next year, we'll be doing some audience participation studies. So, and they will be in person. So there may be people with masks asking you about your demographic information, and also how much money did you spend to attend a cultural event. And if it was a free event, that can be as well. So what we try to find out then is the economic impact. And actually at ArtPride New Jersey, on our public value page, which is Keep Jersey Arts Alive, you can go by county and get some statistics related to attendance and statewide investment, and I believe there's I'm trying to think, there's education investment, and then also we've learned over time that for any ticket that's purchased, a person will spend more than $30 per person when they attend a cultural event. So that all multiplies. And we learned that it's over almost $700 million a year in arts participation. Those are the kinds of things that we tend to use with lawmakers when other cases for support or other anecdotal information doesn't quite hit home. Is to understand for them that there is economic value to the arts.
Yeah.
So we do this project on a detailed level, and if your town is interested, please contact me, because it's not too late to get involved.
And there's a lot of, also very low cost, low, low tech, easy ways to find out at least some information. So for example, let's say you have an art fair. You could have a poster of your county, let's say, and push pins or draft dots, and you can ask people, where did you come from? You can do like a postcard survey where you just ask people for their zip codes. By the way, that's a great benefit to your local businesses, because it gives them a sense of where people are coming from to attend these events. And I think, as Anne-Marie said earlier, the organizations themselves will have lists, and they'll know. They may not be, they may not be willing to share their complete information, but at least maybe towns and zip codes to give you a sense of who's. So the two questions, who's going and where they're coming from. And I would say, and this is beyond Sustainable Jersey, but this is something that we should be aware, that I think we should be aware of when we're doing this kind of work, is who's not going. So who in our, who in our communities is not participating in some of these events? That's not a Sustainable Jersey thing, but I think it's just a good thing to be thinking about when we're involved with, supporting events, helping events, that are public.
Just a few other comments that came in to maybe give some people some ideas. We had someone who said we included food in our inventory and opening experiences that share cultural aspects like music and clothing. And also there is Creative Bergen, which is a countywide organization. I think we have just one more question, and it's going back to the asphalt painting. Can you please speak to the asphalt surface quality? Must it be a newly applied asphalt to achieve good adherence?
That helps, yes, but it doesn't have to be. Our project in Trenton was not on new asphalt at all. Basically, the application is more painstaking if you have a rougher surface, and it affects wear as well. But yeah, you don't need a new surface, but for best results, you certainly need a clean surface, and a smooth surface, or at least an even surface, goes a long way. I will, speaking of asphalt art, I will say that in terms of reaching out to your audience and getting people's reactions both before, during, and after, there's multiple ways to do that. And if you have a place that you might like to put up a mural, put a sign with a QR code and say, would you like a mural here? Answer our brief survey, and you can have like a 1 or 2 question survey, and you can get a lot of responses from people. And those responses can be things that you might think are not measurable. What we're doing with the Bloomberg funded asphalt project is we have a survey that's still ongoing. There are signs with QR codes all over that intersection. And basically it asks you things like, do you feel happy at this intersection? Rate it 1 to 5. Do you feel safe at this intersection? 1 to 5. Do you feel confused? 1 to 5. And before the project, people answered a certain way, and we haven't tabulated it yet. But hopefully they feel happier, safer, and all those things that seem hard to measure, but they actually can be measured. If most people feel happier now that you've installed your art, then that means the quality of life is better publicly for that art. So there are many ways to reach an audience and to survey them and to get their reactions.
I think you're muted, Samantha.
Sorry about that. I was saying that this Q&A has been very informative, so thank you so much for staying on. Thank you to all of the attendees that stayed on. I don't see any other questions. So again, thank you to our presenters today for your time and your wealth of knowledge. We hope to see some more Sustainable Jersey arts and culture action submissions, some grant applications in 2022.